It takes courage to make a film based on a game franchise with one of the most dedicated, passionate, and talented fans. When Blumhouse agreed to take on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, they knew it would be a daunting task. Depending on who you ask, some would say they failed, while others would say they succeeded. The divide between the critics and the fans' reviews are drastic, with 27% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 94% audience rating. You have to wonder, who's right? Well, I believe, not for the first time, that the critics are dead wrong. But before that, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it helps me out a lot. By no way was the FNAF movie perfect, don't get me wrong. Some of the creative choices were questionable, some story elements were lacking, and an important cameo was cancelled. But in looking at behind-the-scenes footage, you can tell that this movie was made with so much passion, genuine enthusiasm, and dedication. The first FNAF game came out in 2014, and since then the franchise has grown exponentially, spiraling into more games, fan theories, and music videos. There was no way Blumhouse would be able to capture all of that into a feature-length film. What they did do was make an hour and 50-minute long tribute to the fans. They hid as many Easter eggs as they could, nodding to past jokes and theories. I could spend hours researching and studying every frame, but I won't for the sake of keeping this video shorter. When almost every horror movie these days takes the easy way out and opts for CGI monsters, from the start, director Emma Tammy made it clear that she wanted actual animatronics. So with the help of Jim Henson Creature Shop, Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, and Chica were 100% practical animatronics. The animatronics were fascinating to watch and totally worth it, even though they were a bit of a nightmare on set. Like when Foxy's animatronic actually caught on fire. That wasn't the only thing the crew made practically, as they also built the entire pizzeria inside of an abandoned Home Depot. It was a huge set to create, but the end result was so worth it, and the pizzeria was a delightful mix of nostalgic rooms and creative new areas. Another huge part of the franchise are the creators, like YouTubers and streamers who helped the series gain so much attention. I'm talking about people like Markiplier, MatPat, and Corey Kenshin. Blumhouse wanted to acknowledge all they had done to place FNAF where it is today, and they worked in, or at least tried to, in the case of Mark, cameos for each of them. Corey X. Kenshin played a cameo as the cab driver, and the man himself, Matthew Patrick, who's played a huge role in the franchise's popularity, making almost 50 videos about the game's lore, got his own little minute of fame. I, among many other fans, was overjoyed to see his cameo. He played a waiter at a diner and got to say his famous catchphrase.
But, you know, it's just a theory.
MatPat also had very interesting testimonials about his experience filming, and if you haven't seen the video he made about it, definitely check it out after this one. He said that everyone there, cast and crew, was just so passionate about the project. The crew offered to show him the sets in progress and the making of the animatronics, while the cast would badger him with questions about the franchise and if they were making a faithful adaptation. He even got his own actor's trailer when he had a total of 3 lines. You could tell the people behind the FNAF movie did their homework and really respected the community behind the franchise. This is why I wholeheartedly believe that the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was one for the fans, not the critics. All the research that went into a project of this size is incredible, and just by watching it, you can tell it was made with love. While there were some flaws and a few places where it came up short, it doesn't deserve the critics' harsh ratings. The critics don't understand that the community plays a huge role in this franchise, and how honoring that community was the best thing they could have done. I wish, instead of critiquing it as any other horror movie, they would take the time and open their eyes to the pure dedication that went into the making of this movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was for the fans, and I respect that. Critics having a vastly different opinion of a movie than the audience is nothing new. The discrepancy between these ratings can be easily explained by the difference in backgrounds. In order to stay informed, film critics watch a lot of different movies, and after a while, it gets easy to spot overused tropes, simple mistakes, and unoriginal storytelling. What might be considered a minor flaw in the FNAF movie to fans like me could be an absolute deal-breaker to a film critic who's seen games adapted into films many times before. This same situation happened with the Mario movie, where audience were outraged with how harshly it was being critiqued for it being a pretty decent movie. The major difference between these opposing sides is that the audience chose to be there. They saw the trailers, bought their tickets, and paid way too much money on theater snacks because they wanted to see that movie. But someone who's quite literally seen it all, I understand how it can get a bit repetitive. This is why the critics usually rate original and unconventional movies much higher. What might seem as an odd, experimental movie to fans could be a movie critic's last grip on their sanity, who knows? But of course there's those times where the critic's harsh eye and the audience interest line up perfectly for good ratings across the board. I'm talking about movies like Spider-Man Into and Across the Spider-Verse, which have done consistently well in both groups, for that revolutionary animation style and the nostalgia factor. At the end of the day, I'm not a movie critic or even a seasoned film enjoyer, and I don't claim to be one. My advice is to focus on the rating that's most relevant to you. If you're a huge Marvel fan, you'll probably want to pay closer attention to the fellow fans' feedback instead of the critics. But if you're looking for something brand new and more artsy, that's probably where the critics' score will help you out. The point of this video is to hopefully show people who didn't grow up with the FNAF franchise why they should give it a chance instead of judging it as the next indie horror cash grab. Five Nights at Freddy's was a nod and respect to the fans, and in that regard, I suggest you value the fans' opinions above all.